the
Open the
house.
gates.
Okay.
Open sesame. The floodgates are opening.
They are. Hello, hello. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. Here we got. Hello, Cyril. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again.
Roz, good to see you again.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm in London now.
Poor you, poor you. Hi, hello, Amber. Nice to meet you and good to have you with us. Shaban Talti, good evening, I suppose.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Magdalena. Good to have you with us. Silvio, the man in Waterloo.
Hi. Hi.
Hi, Magdalena.
Hi, Lux and Molly. How are you?
Oh, very well, thank you. How are you?
Fine, thank you. I will be mostly with the camera off because I'm a little bit ill, so I'm
Oh dear. Wow.
at home a little bit relaxed.
Shame not to be able to see you, but totally understand.
Thank you.
Hello, welcome.
Hey there.
Hi, Heather Gem, interesting name. Welcome to you too. What else we got? And Jackie Habib, nice to meet you. Hello, and good to see you too. All right, well, we've got 11 on, so I suggest we start. So welcome everyone to this IC Hub Skills Exchange. I'm Loxan, and this is
Molly.
Yeah, and we founded this IC Hub, as many of you already know, in order to help independent development and social impact professionals to both, or those who want to become independent development and social impact professionals, and also those who are already independent consultants in this field, to skill up, to do consulting better, and to support each other. So let's go a quick round of introductions. So many of you already been here, and I find this round of introductions is a pretty good way to practice your elevator pitch for those especially the newer ones, because being able to communicate very quickly and clearly what you do is a big kind of good practice.
And it seems easier. It's easier said than done.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go very quickly around the table. So my name is Loxan. I'm based in the UK in the Southeast, and I'm an independent migration and diaspora specialist doing research, technical assistance, training, speaking, etc. in the field of migration and diaspora for governments, international organizations, NGOs, some private sector clients too. Molly.
Yeah, and I'm Molly Morrison. I am an independent consultant who focuses on fundraising for grassroots NGOs.
Fantastic. Cyril.
Yeah, I'm Cyril. I'm based in Paris. I'm an independent consultant in global health and specialized in infectious disease, in the diagnostic of infectious disease. I'm working for NGOs, foundation, and research organization.
Fantastic. Just very briefly, Cyril, we do have, for some reason, or we do have a kind of growing core group of Paris-based IC Hubbers who all work from the same co-working center in Paris. So happy to connect you with them. I don't think any of them are on this call, but they're in the IC Hub. So happy to connect you with them if you'd like to follow up. Great, Shaban Talti. What a lovely name.
Hi, everyone. My name's Siobhan. I'm Australian, but I'm based in Spain. I'm an M&E advisor. At the moment, I work for an NGO, but I'm moving back into consulting in the next few months.
Fantastic. Welcome again. Amber.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me. I am Amber Boss. I am a cartographic consultant. I work with activists and grassroots organizations. I'm based in Provo, Utah in the States, and I help them make effective maps and data visualizations.
Yeah, Really cool.
Very
And
interesting.
I also like all the greenery you've got going behind you.
Thank you. It's to convince you I'm responsible and can keep things alive.
Good subtle messaging. Yeah, nice.
And Molly is Western Coloradan, which is practically Utah. So
yeah. Basically neighbors. Well,
yeah.
in theory.
Roz.
Hi, I'm Roz. I'm based in London, and I also do fundraising for grassroots organizations. I also do strategic planning and other things mainly for grassroots organizations.
Brilliant. Thank you. Silvio.
Hi, everyone. My name is Silvio. I'm currently based just outside of Toronto, Canada. I am a full-time public servant with the regional government of Waterloo, and I'm also doing part-time consultancies, mostly related to migration, diaspora engagement, and Eastern European affairs.
And Silvia's been kicking ass in terms of getting consultancies. So, well done there, Silvia. Jackie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie. I am from Toronto, but currently based in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm a journalist, and I focus most of my reporting on women's rights in East Africa and on social justice and humanitarian issues, which is quite broad. And in the last few years, I've been doing quite a bit of consulting, mostly media consulting and storytelling for NGOs and humanitarian organizations. So happy to have stumbled across your work and thankful to be here today.
Thank you. Welcome. And I'm sure Gabriella will talk about channels briefly at some points, which could connect with your work if you're not connected with them already. Magdalena.
Hi to everybody. I am Magdalena. I am from Spain. I am currently based in Geneva in Switzerland. I'm a communication specialist specialized in audiovisual and digital communications, as I'm the founder of MAG Agency in Geneva, which is an individual company working on providing services in communication and research and audiovisuals.
Brilliant. Thank you, Magdalena. Rowan.
Hey everyone, I'm Rowan. I'm an economic development and strategy consultant based in Cape Town, South Africa. It's a little bit colder here than in the northern hemisphere at the moment. My main work sort of focuses on impact startups and small businesses based in the townships. I work with a bunch of different incubators, and I lecture at the University of Cape Town. I've just left a startup recently and moving back into the independent consultant world. So that's how I find myself here. So yeah, thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah, really interesting, and your accent doesn't sound as Italian as your name, but it's a lovely South African accent you've got.
Thank you. Yeah, the parents are Italian.
Okay, fair enough. Cher Watson.
Hi everyone, Cher here. I am a monitoring, evaluation and learning officer right now for a sport for development organization. Well, I'm working out of Jamaica, but it's headquartered in the UK, and it was founded in the favelas of Brazil. This is their little logo. If you can see my shirt, it's kind of, it's based on using boxing and sport, martial arts, and other sports as a means for violence prevention, to, divert young people living in communities with high levels of violence into other activities. But we're all around, we have a 5-pillar methodology of sports and education, employability, and the whole gamut. For me, so I'm based in Jamaica, but right now I'm in LA, so it's 8 a.m. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that my calendar was clear this morning, because I've, wanted to really participate. I'm currently working on an EU project, which it's around human rights, but I work on multiple projects at that organization. So there's advocacy. Some are just, we have a UEFA grant right now. So some are just strictly sports and best practices with child protection integrated. So a range of sectoral areas. However, I do want to, I'm a consultant there and a consultant hybrid staff. And I really want to strengthen my branding and for independent consultancies. So thank you. I don't know, I feel like mine was longer. I'm so sorry.
Okay, no worries.
I'm just so I'm happy to make it to my first meeting. So I was just
no, welcome. Well, great to have you with us. And we do have some other Caribbean members of the IC Hub as well. So
nice.
Yeah, including, well, you may have seen our last event was with Anne Murray Brown.
Yeah, I catch the recording. So cool. Yeah,
excellent.
For sure.
Okay, and then lastly, we'll obviously get on to Gabriella for a more extended introduction, but oh no, we've got two more. Heather Gem.
Hi, I'm Heather Gem Ibo. I am joining you all from Trinidad in the Caribbean. I'm actually working with a few consultants now. I had my own event management business, which of course with COVID just disappeared. And I'm doing admin support for two consultants. One is an environmental specialist and the other one is a gender specialist. And both of them are working on websites, etc. now. And I just figured I would join the meeting to, get a sense of hear what you all are saying, see what I could use from what I hear here to assist them in terms of doing their websites and getting their branding sorted, etc. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. Welcome. And last but not least, I'm probably going to mispronounce this. Christina.
It's Christina. I think you got it. Hi everyone. Sorry I was joining a little bit late. I'm joining from Malaysia and it is 11 p.m. where I am right now. Where I am on my consulting journey, I kind of started a little before the pandemic started. And the current project that I'm managing is sort of expiring at the end of this year. And so I'm here to kind of learn about, how to kind of put myself out there and seeing how to secure new clients and contacts and contracts as well. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and nice to meet you all.
Fantastic. And yeah, you might want to check out on our website, there's the kind of start here button, which then links you to the getting new clients content that we've created. But anyway, feel free to share your LinkedIn links cards in the chat, which others started to do on some other events, which was pretty useful. But let's just hand over to Gabriella. I know nothing about branding. Molly knows a bit, but I'm just gonna
nothing compared to Gabriella.
Yeah. So we're here to learn. And Gabriella, tell us who you are first, and then tell us about branding, what we should know.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Gabriella Mikiewicz. I am currently based in Vilnius in Lithuania, but only for, I don't know yet, maybe a few more days or maybe another week or so. It's still unclear, with traveling during COVID is a bit difficult. So I'm not really sure where I'm living next or anything, but that's kind of one of the reasons that I wanted to become a freelancer and consultant, is also to have this kind of flexibility and stuff like that. So I work as a communications consultant and freelancer. I focus on social impact with a specialization in migration. And I do everything from, the strategic communication side all the way down to the very technical stuff with, branding and graphic design, web design and stuff like that. So that's why I think Loksan and Molly were keen to invite me here today. And I can preface by saying I'm by no means the most, I don't have my own best personal branding ever out there. So if you Google me, I still also have some maybe ways to go, but it's something I'm slowly working on and it's a big project. So also at any point today, if you feel like, oh my goodness, this is so much or something like that, it doesn't have to be done in one day. You don't have to sit down and have everything done by tomorrow. It's a process. Even I'm still working on it for myself. And yeah, so I have a presentation, a short presentation that I just wanted to share with you. It is a presentation that I've given for another group of people before. And then I just like kind of deleted the front slide and the last one that said where it was for. So don't mind me, I've been super busy with a consultancy this week. So I apologize that I didn't have more time to make something personalized for this group. But I still hope it will be useful for you guys. And basically I'll try to go through it fast just to give you guys the basics. And then I would really love to focus more on a discussion afterwards and hear from you all. So without further ado, I will go ahead and start sharing my screen. And there we go. So I'll just start with a definition of personal branding, because I think very often people hear about branding and they imagine, you know, McDonald's and Starbucks and stuff like that. And it feels very corporate and it feels very like you're selling your soul or something like that. And I think that at the end of the day, there is a way to make social impact and personal branding work together. So the definition that I like to use is that personal branding is the conscious and intentional effort to create and influence public perception of an individual by positioning them as an authority in their industry, elevating their credibility, differentiating them from the competition, to ultimately advance their career, increase their circle of influence, and have a larger impact. So one of the main things that I really like about this is the first part that says that personal branding is conscious and intentional. You actually do have to put some effort in. Maybe for some people it's a bit more effortless, but it's definitely not something that comes easy for everybody, and it's not something that you can do overnight, as I said. So the purpose of this today is to just kind of introduce you to some of the basics, and then we can talk about some next steps as well. So why would you want to build a personal brand online? And of course, I'm talking about online because if we were offline and we were able to meet people in person and stuff like that, there would maybe be more that we can talk about. But for today, we'll just stick to online. 85% of US recruiters and HR professionals say that an employee's online reputation influences their hiring decisions to at least some extent. So I think that's interesting. If you want to maybe become, find a client or be hired or something like that, people will be looking you up. Also, 82% of customers trust a company when their senior management members are active on social media. So I think that statistic is also interesting because especially with consulting, a lot of us might work under an umbrella name, like an organization, for example, like Magdalena has MAG Agency. And so while it's important that MAG Agency in Switzerland is active on their social media, people also want to know who's behind this, what are they doing? They're going to be looking at Magdalena's social media as well. So I think in any case, it's important to have a strong personal brand, or at least know that people will search for you, even if you don't have a strong personal brand. So what goes into a brand? I like to think of it in kind of two separate columns that I'll talk about. The first is messaging. What should people know about you? What do you want people to know about you? What do you not want people to know about you? These are the kind of things. And here you have to clearly communicate that and have a clear purpose that you're able to share with people. The second part, of course, is the visual identity, which is more what people think about when they imagine a brand. They think about colors and fonts and everything, and that's definitely important, but that really doesn't go very far if you don't have your messaging in place as well. So the first thing is about developing your message. First of all, I would definitely recommend you look up a lot of the resources that Loxan and Molly have created on IC Hub, because they also have a lot of things like when you're starting off as a consultant, how can you develop your mission and vision and all of these things. So definitely having a clear understanding of what you're trying to accomplish with your consulting work is important, because I mean, then you can choose colors and fonts all day, but what are you really communicating to people if you don't even know what you're trying to do? So really having a good idea of what you want to accomplish and what is your vision for the future. Then you can also do some kind of a word cloud and have some things written down. What words do you think currently you're associated with online? And of course, not necessarily what your parents or your friends would say about you, but what does your online presence say about you? And then try to think, what do you want your online presence to say about you? And make another word cloud. Do they overlap? Are they very different? How come? How do you get to the point where you want people to, where people are associating you with the words that you want them to? So for me, I want to be associated with migration, migration studies, working with social impact, and I want to be associated with communication. And I think it's been working for me. As soon as somebody sees, communications consultancy in some kind of social impact field, people are sending me these things. It means that it's working. It means that I've somehow told people that this is what I'm about.
I sent you something this morning, Gabriella, which was precisely that. It was a consultancy, terms of reference, strategic communications, migration. So, and I just thought Gabriella. So that's
so it's working. That's evidence right there.
It was very intentional. You've been manipulated, Luxa, and I have to break it to you.
No.
So yeah. And the last part of messaging also includes your value proposition. What can you offer and why should people hire you? Once again, your colors and your fonts won't help people hire you if they also don't know why they should and what you can offer them. So definitely have your messaging established before you try to really figure out your personal brand 100%. The next part, of course, is the visual side. So you have to think about colors, fonts, and what I would call your vibe. I'm sure that there's a better word for it, but that's just the word that I like to use. So for colors, there's a whole plethora of research about color meanings and what each thing stands for. Blue is very, professional, it's trustworthy, it's academic. There's a reason the UN and the EU have blue colors, right? You're very established and very professional. Red definitely represents energy. There's a reason that Coca-Cola and Red Bull have red in their colors. Purple has its own, purple's more either like royalty or something more formal and stuff like that. So every single color has its own, purpose, its own use, and it communicates something. So if you're working with maybe a very sensitive topic, for example, you don't want to use super bright, colorful, all of the colors in the world imaginable, maybe, or something like that, or maybe you do, right? It's really kind of up to you. What color do you want to be associated with? And then you can think about fonts. There's also a million different fonts to choose from. You can really, just Googling fonts, definitely check Google Fonts for it's a bunch of free fonts, so you can check, but there's so many of them. How do you even know where to start? It's difficult. You have to also think about, what do you want your brand to represent? Do you want something very modern, like the font that I'm using in this presentation? I think this is Railway, possibly, and it's a bit more modern, but also it's not like some crazy out there modern font. Do you want it to be more vintage? Maybe if you do a lot of writing, maybe you want your whole typewriter vibe or something like that, and you want like just really a Times New Roman, stuff like that. There's a whole world of fonts to choose from, and my point here is just that what font you choose says something about you. Everything that you kind of choose says something about you. So just think about it a bit before you make any decisions. And the last thing is just about your vibe, and this definitely incorporates your colors and your fonts. Do you really want like a minimalistic approach where it's like all black and white and very clean and clear? Do you want something maximalistic that's super colorful and says a lot of stuff at the same time? It's really up to you to think about that. So I would recommend maybe checking out some other consultants who have maybe their own websites or other kind of things online that you can check. What colors are they using? What fonts are they using? What does this show about them? What assumptions do you make from the beginning, just visually when you see their stuff? Go on to Pinterest and look up some inspiration and kind of see what works for you. And yeah, just do some research. So those are the things that go into the visual part. And then how do you get your messaging and your visual identity to work together? Always, they're always working together all the time, as they should be. So there's not one part where you do your messaging and one part where you do your visual. They work together really consistently through your online and offline presence. So we can talk a little bit about that, like how do you bring them together? So you bring them together through your online. Of course, today we'll mostly be talking about online. And then, of course, if you have any questions about using it offline, we can discuss that later as well. But the ways that you can create your online identity through your personal brand are through your social media, through a website, through any kind of documentation you use, and through marketing efforts. So we'll just zip through these. With social media, you do not need to be on all of them. Social media is hard. It's hard to maintain well. It's hard to look very good on. It takes a lot of time and energy. And if you cannot do a fantastic job at 6 different social medias, choose the 1 or 2 that you can do a fantastic job on. Otherwise, it might actually negatively impact your brand. And the thing is, all social medias are different. So you also have to consider who are your potential clients or partners and what are they using. So a little bit of information, LinkedIn, I'll just move this picture. Here you go. So with LinkedIn, there's a lot of professionals. LinkedIn is a super up and coming platform. People, maybe even yourself, you've noticed, are using it way more than we were just a year, just 2 years ago. It's really a place where if you kind of follow some patterns that you see, you can really make a big name for yourself. Twitter is great for niche discussions, something that's very specific in your field. I think there's a lot of people who, for example, are in lists. So I follow a lot of lists about like migration people and stuff like that. And if you tweet like a long thread, you might get a lot of responses or something like something about that, more than if you just tweet very general things. So it's a good place to find people who are also working in your niche. Instagram has a very personal vibe. So people like to see real human beings. They like to see faces. They don't like to feel like they're being advertised to. So having a big sponsored flashy ad might not always work as good as having, you know, a picture of a real person and then something in the caption, which is the advertisement. And when I say advertisement, I mean any kind of call to action. Hey, visit my website. Hey, do this. Hey, hire me, something like that. And also with Instagram, it's a very visual platform, so it's important to have nice quality photos and stuff like that. Facebook is definitely the most used social media. Even if it's in decline, it's still way up there. But maybe some of you have noticed, and no offense, it's mostly boomers who use it now. So yeah, I think especially with younger generations, it's kind of losing its touch a bit. Facebook is also complicated, and they have a difficult algorithm where they really promote, especially for people who are paying. So basically, if you're not paying and you're not doing sponsored ads or anything like that, very few people are going to see your content. However, Facebook groups are huge. And this is a great place for you with your own account personally to go in, engage with people. There's a bunch of like freelancing groups, consulting groups, social impact groups. There's a ton of really great stuff on there that you can definitely find clients and stuff for. But maybe having, for example, a Facebook page where you're like, I do Gabriella Mikiewicz consulting isn't going to work as much as just like your own personal efforts in groups and networking, for example. So that's my spiel about social media. And if you have any questions, of course, we can discuss it as well. The next part is about your website. There's a lot of stuff that you can have on a website. It's not mandatory to have a website? Definitely not. But it is a really good thing for if somebody's Googling you, for example, the website can pop up. It's also a great way to market yourself as a specialist in something, because I mean, at the end of the day, basically whatever you put on your website, you can really make up your own title, all of these things that we were saying, you know, I'm Gabriella Mikiewicz, I'm a communications consultant and freelancer doing blah, blah, blah. You just write it on your website, and I mean, it's there, you know, and then people kind of can find you for that. So it's not like, yeah, I don't know really what I'm trying to say with that, but my point is that a website is a great place for you to kind of make your own space on the internet and say exactly what you want people to know about you. What can you include on your website? So you can have a page about you, what you're doing, the services that you're offering. Definitely talk about why people should hire you, what makes you unique. Show examples of your previous work, so have some kind of portfolio. How can people contact you? That's definitely important. They check out your website and then they're like, I'd love to hire this person, and then they don't they don't know how. And then also a great idea is to have a blog which shows up-to-date industry knowledge, and this is also a really important point to talk about when you're saying that you're an expert in something, but the fields that we work in are constantly changing, and there's new things that we have to know about and new things that we have to comment on. So also just kind of the fact that you're showing that you have an opinion on things and you're constantly learning and opening up for discussion can definitely help your personal brand and how people view you. And it's also something to share on your personal media, social media. Maybe you write a really interesting blog post, other people click on it and they're like, oh, hey, I didn't know that I could hire Loksan, but at the bottom of his blog, it says, hire me, you know, and all of a sudden there's a potential client there for you. So having a website could be a really good idea if you're interested in growing your consulting. So here's an example of my own personal website. So I have just like a little blurb about me on the front, and then I have an about page, my services, which are still being updated, a portfolio where I have different graphic design stuff, strategic stuff, and I have a blog and a contact page. And here's an example of the blog. Because I do a lot of work with communications, I wrote a blog post in January, for example, that was just sparked from a random conversation with a colleague. And it turned into like a pretty big blog post that I also shared in some Facebook groups. And it's something that, you know, now if I ever see a discussion about Facebook or something like that, I can link people to my blog in the future, and all of a sudden it's something that keeps going. Molly, I remember you mentioned something about blogs as well. Was it maybe in a podcast, or was it in person or something like that, about how it's good to have the content kind of there so that when you're talking to potential clients in the future, you can refer them to things and you're not constantly repeating yourself?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, because no one's like coming onto my website to avidly, you know, they're not an avid follower of my blog, but I find it's really useful to share the link with people in relevant contexts. So, and a lot of that stuff is evergreen, you know, it's relevant to a number of people over time. So yeah, I found that really useful, even though I would not class myself as a blogger or somebody who's ever going to get a big following just by blogging alone. So
yeah, so exactly like Molly said, it's just a great way to have some kind of content prepared, some things to show if somebody's like, hey, Gabrielle, I'm thinking about hiring you. Can we talk a bit? Do you know about Facebook? Should I be on Facebook? I can send them something like this, for example. So it's just a good idea for your personal brand and outreach. I think I just have the two more things. The next is documentation, and then after that is the marketing efforts. So for documentation, you can include the more visual stuff, the colors and fonts in all of your proposals, invoices, contracts that you sign, business cards, your email signature, thank you notes, everything like that. So don't think that your personal branding is only, for example, on your website. There's a lot of places you can use it. You can, you know, every time you send an invoice or something like that, it can have the good old Gabriella Mikiewicz colors and fonts. So yeah. The last thing is marketing effort. And actually this idea of the quarterly newsletter is totally something I stole from Luxan. And I don't do it myself personally, but I just thought it was such a fantastic idea that I'm happy to give other people the idea as well. So basically, the idea is that every once in a while, whether it's 4 times a year, 1 time a month, anything you want, you can reach your network directly in their inboxes by having a quarterly newsletter. And it's something that some people can sign up for on your website. It's something that maybe you just have some friends and contacts in your field and you just want to reach out to them. And you can have everything from, hey, I got a new cat, and also I've been working on this cool consultancy, here's the output, and also I'm open for work. And it's just a way that you can also have your branding, you can have your name, your colors, remind people what you're doing and who you are, and share some resources as well. Luxan is also really great at that in his newsletter, to share resources. So I think that that's a really good way to get your name out there as well. And yeah, the last thing is about networking. So of course you can use your own social media and the networks that you have there, but also joining networks and hubs such as IC Hub is also a great place to start. Finding new people, finding partners, finding people to work with, finding leads on consultancies. Even if you're not necessarily finding a client from somebody, at least you can find a lead. Oh, here's a link to something that's opening, something like that. Attend events, even if they're online, get coffee with people, even if it's online, working on collaborative projects, and make sure people know about you. So this part is definitely the slow part as well, where you can't just say, I have a personal brand now and make a website. If nobody knows that you even exist, then you're not also gonna get super far. So just having people in your network who are interested in what you're doing, who want to help you out, who want to share your stuff is a great idea. And this is also, I can give a personal example for this. Something that I did, I think it was in February. Yeah, I had already joined IC Hub, and Molly and Luxan connected me to another person in IC Hub named Faith. And together we started a network for communications practitioners working in social impact fields, where we also do different kinds of events and stuff like that. And so just kind of having that association and having a really big network has also been super helpful and important in my own consulting and freelancing. So yeah, I think that's the end of my presentation for now. And I would just also like to say that networking has been very, very huge for me. I think every single piece of freelancing or consulting I've done, and it's been maybe like 1.5 years since I kind of started dipping my toes into it, has come from somebody in my network. And it's hard to get your foot in the door. And I also feel bad for people who don't have a network and don't really know where to start. But it's the honest truth that that's where I've gotten to where I have been. So yeah, so anyway, thank you. I see that there's like 20 comments now. I think a lot of them are linked and stuff. But yeah, I'll be quiet now and open the floor for any questions or comments, or please share your own experiences or anything like that. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Gabriella. Who would like to share their experiences with personal branding or their questions? Please feel free to unmute your mic and ask directly or express yourself to the group.
I can weigh in really quickly about the social media part of the presentation when you mentioned that Facebook will kind of sync any Facebook page that's not paid. And I think IC Hub, we can back that up because our Facebook page performs so poorly. It's a complete waste of time, basically. We get like 12 views per post or something. But then the Facebook group, a lot of people use that, and that seems to be pretty active, you know, relatively active. So yeah, I was really surprised by that. And yeah, I mean, I it just was like something, I don't know, I guess when you hear about social media, people are like, oh yeah, you just, you know, you hear about like the big hitters, like, oh, somebody got on social media and had millions of followers and then now they're a celebrity, and you're like, okay, so we just get on social media and start posting things and then we'll be famous. And we've really found that's not at all the reality. And yeah, you have to be very active. You have to engage with people. You have to interact with other content. It's not just you spitting things out. And that engagement is what really takes a lot of time. So I also agree with what you said about narrowing the platforms you're active on. I think for that reason, we've kind of been like, okay, we're gonna not really deal with Twitter. It's a bit too chaotic. It's a bit too much like, I don't know, just different comments. I don't know. And I think Facebook group is a little bit more controlled. And then LinkedIn, I think, is another one that we really like. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for weighing in. Is there anyone else? Cher, I saw that you unmuted yourself earlier.
Yes, mine was more of a question. So, you know, I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and like when you mentioned blogging, I know it's something that like Anne Marie kind of alluded to, just having your voice in the conversation. But I'm deathly afraid of like, I think my fear is I don't want to be disingenuous. Anything I talk and I'm passionate about. And I think sometimes we can identify blogs that are just blogging just because, just to be noisy versus a pointed, passionate, you know, targeted. You know, sometimes it's probably a rant about the sector or how, you know, the certain social intervention. For instance, in Jamaica, right when I had moved back to start working, there was the night I'm watching the news and they're like, okay, the government to defund social intervention programs. And I'm just like, well, here's a start, you know? So like stuff like that, I'd love to be able to talk about just and from anybody, just how do you, what advice would you give to content development on your personal professional blog?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can go first, but I'd also love to hear from other people. It's hard. I have so many ideas. I have like an ongoing list in a notebook of like blog posts I should write, and I try to keep that written down because sometimes I'll just see something that makes me think of something like that, and I'm like, oh, I could write 4 paragraphs on that. Your blog post doesn't have to be like super long reads, right? So it can just be quite short, but it takes a long time as well to come up with these things, so it's difficult. And I don't think, as long as you're not, you know, saying I'm going to post a blog post every week, no one's going to expect that from you. So it just can be like whenever you have the time to, and really just kind of get inspiration from the world around you. I think something that can also, I see a lot of communications people, for example, do is, I was just reading this really interesting blog post from somebody who, when the whole Super League thing was happening, when like a few weeks ago with football, somebody was just like commenting on the Super League's communications, you know, that they were doing. And it's just like something recent that happened, some recent news, and be like, I want to see like, oh, what did they do right? This is what they did wrong. This is lessons learned, right? It can really be as simple as current events and stuff happening. So the example that you gave, Cher, I think you could totally write a blog post about that. And like Molly was saying, you don't need to have 1 million followers and you don't need to get 1 million views on the post, but it gets your name out there as somebody who has opinions on it, on these topics, and maybe it'll be of value to somebody at some point. So just keep putting it out there, keep churning out that content, right? No, I mean, it's a bit depressing if you think about it that way, but yeah.
Yeah, I love how Molly framed it as it can just be where you can point someone to reference what you feel. I'm not on Instagram anymore. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not a big social media person, but I really appreciate the idea of, here's what I thought of this topic and just pointing people here. So thanks for that.
Oh, Amber, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. I just feel very nourished for being here. So I appreciate y'all taking the time to organize this and show up. And my kind of question or area of curiosity for Gabriella is thinking about like the ideal client narrative that I've heard about. I feel a bit in my own work kind of split, where I work with people who are kind of technological experts but don't know much about design at all, and I kind of help them finesse their data visualization to be a little bit more clear and effective. And then I also want to work with folks who have never made data visualizations before and like kind of go from the ground, the first step of data collection and stuff like that. And so just like feeling a little bit like super techie, super beginner, figuring out how to navigate that. And I've heard a lot about ideal client. Who's your ideal client? Start with your ideal client. I'm like, so feeling a little bit swirly in that aspect. So yeah, I thought maybe you would have some thoughts to offer on how to position your personal brand in considerations with the specific clients you're hoping to attract.
Well, I mean, just my first thought is that a blog is like a great place for something like that, because you can really talk about the very beginning. You can have a whole blog post and then like literally what is data visualization and why do I need to do it? And then you can also have a commentary about some techie, system. And that way, if somebody's like a beginner and doesn't know about it, they can go and they'd be like, wow, she knows that techie stuff. That's really cool. But she also can communicate these complex things to me, who's a beginner, and I'll hire her. And the other person says, oh, look, she has a lot of stuff for beginners. Am I going to be part of, should I hire her? Oh, no, she also has a techie stuff. So I think, if you personally don't necessarily have an ideal client or anything like that, like you're like, I'm open to work with a lot of different people, then you can also just have kind of content or services on your website or anything about that. And, that's something you can easily have in your bio that you share. I'm Amber. I work with everyone from, people who've never heard of data visualization to XYZ, and I mean, it can be as broad as that. I think it shouldn't be too complicated and too specific, I mean, you can't, maybe my ideal client is like this one specific person. I'm not going to direct all of my online stuff so that one would be like, XYZ, hire me, please, because I also want other clients. So yeah, if that answers your question.
That absolutely does. Thank you. Because I have been making it too complicated. I absolutely have. So yeah, thank you.
I think if you focus on creating content that showcases your expertise, then it will draw in the kinds of people who want that expertise. And then also, if thinking back to what Gabriella said about brainstorming the keywords that you want to be associated with, that also links back to the types of conversations we've had previously about making it clear what you do and the area that you're working in. And I think once you do that, you not only draw in the types of people who want that expertise, but it also makes it easier for yourself to identify potential clients, if that makes sense. And there's not only with content creation, there's types of content creation that suit everyone, that suit different what's the word, that suit different skills, different tastes and so on. So I actually don't do a lot of blogging. I've done it in the past, but for my area of work, migration, I just find it quite difficult to motivate myself to do all the research required to do those kinds of blog posts. But I've done a lot of podcasting, as a lot of people know, and I think someone noticed oh no, that was Amber's microphone. Amber's a very good microphone. Yeah, but I've done a lot of, so you're set up for podcasting, but you know, I've done a lot of podcasting, and that's kind of the way I like to do content creation. But you know, just thinking about your area of expertise, Amber, you know, an idea that you might want to consider is the idea of a lead magnet. And a lead magnet is when you create some sort of resource and then you put it in a short blog post, a resource that will help your audience. And it's something that, in order to access that resource, your audience has to, you know, enter their email address and join your mailing list to in order to access it.
Yeah, what you had a lead magnet that was very successful.
Yeah, so I created one on migration data sources. I just created this kind of like list of top migration data sources.
It was like a 2-page PDF of just, you know, useful links to different databases that already exist.
It took me about an hour to create, and then I put it online, and then it got about something ridiculous like 5,000 views on LinkedIn, and I think about 100 people in the end, 120 people joined my mailing list in a couple of days, and then they get my quarterly newsletter.
And it's good because they kind of self-select, like if they are getting that specific resource, it's because they're interested in migration. Like if I saw that on his LinkedIn, I would never download it. I would be like, okay, keep scrolling. So it's kind of like self-selecting the audience through that. And you can also like tag them. So if you have like that lead magnet, you could tag all the people that download that specific lead magnet. And then you could do another one for a different type of client, and then you could tag them and have like 2 different lists and be able to tailor your content depending on that. So yeah, I thought that was pretty clever way to do it.
And just very lastly, I think content creation is also a good way to show off your personality. You know, we work with humans, right? And I think what I've noticed with podcasting is that when people who have listened to my podcast then meet me, you know, they feel like they kind of know me already. And that speeds up that networking and relationship, because as consultants, and like with any business, people will hire you if they know, like, and trust you. So, you know, think content creation is kind of a way to scale up that process. Anyway, any other question? Oh, we got Cyril. I'm not sure who was first between Rowan and Cyril, but Cyril, then Rowan.
Yeah. Just a question about the paid service from LinkedIn. Is there any benefit of using the paid service? I'm still using the free, you know, package from LinkedIn, and I'm able to post. And so, of course, I don't really see people who are hidden, I think. But do you know any usefulness of using the paid services?
Yeah, I actually did, like, they offered me like 30 days free trial once, and I did it, and it was like really nothing fancy or special. So I never decided to pay for it again. But I have a friend who gets it free from her work, and she's like, I don't know if I would pay for it on a monthly basis, but I do like that I have it. Because of the extra small benefits. So I think it had something. It just depends on like how much extra you want to pay for it. But I totally would say, like, any kind of trying to find clients, any kind of outreach you have, absolutely fine on the free version. And I wouldn't spend any, because you're already putting resources in terms of like your own time into posting on social media. And I wouldn't say putting extra resources such as money at this point until maybe you're really big, and then maybe you can outsource some stuff or something like that. So yeah, I think you're absolutely fine for.
Yeah, I would say the same thing as well. I tried it, but didn't find it useful actually at all. So, you know, you can do the free trial perhaps, and then see if it serves your needs. But yeah, Rowan.
Hey, just a question for Gabriella. So one of the things I struggle with a little bit is that my LinkedIn is quite professional, but my other social media, specifically my Instagram and my Twitter, are not as much. So my Twitter consists of a couple of like sort of social justice retweets and that sort of stuff, and then memes. And so like I worry about like how to, you know, either set up a second professional Twitter and keep one locked, or keep one open, or not repost memes and keep a separate hidden. And what I end up doing is that I end up locking my Instagram and Twitter accounts when I'm looking for new clients, and then when I've got a stable base of clients, I open them up again. So I don't know what the best strategy is there, especially as an independent consultant.
Yeah, I mean, my personal opinion on that is that I notice what other people like on Twitter a lot. So it's not just about going to their profile and retweeting something and seeing like, oh, they retweeted this. I see everything. I see what you're liking, and some of the things I'm like a bit shocked that I'm like, oh, do you know how this works? But then with other people, especially I follow a lot of like academics, and I'm in academic circles, and I actually see a lot of people posting, you know, even I saw a tweet recently, maybe I can find it later. I won't repeat what it said because it was very inappropriate, but the whole point was, I'm tweeting about all of this XYZ very inappropriate stuff, and you academics are still following me. This is crazy. And people were commenting like crazy on that and being like, yeah, because I want to see that you're a real person, and I want to see this. So I really think it depends, and people have very different approaches to what other, like, so maybe if your meme is actually really funny, somebody would love and appreciate that. And if it says something bad about you, then maybe, you know, you just have to be a bit more selective that way. But I absolutely like how Loksan said it's a great way to show your personality. And yeah, so personally, I deleted my Facebook and my Instagram, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. I have merged my old Twitter that I've had for many years into like a more professional one. I'm still worried that someday somebody's going to scroll really far back and it'll have something stupid or embarrassing, but I'm not that worried that I will go back and delete it myself. I'll just be like, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, so it's not that bad. So yeah, I think it's just really kind of somebody else might say that's so inappropriate, and somebody else might say that's so cool, man. I don't know. It's up to you to kind of forge forward in whichever way you would like to. Yeah. I don't know.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. That's perfect.
And yeah, just on that, I mean, once in a while I post about football related stuff, soccer for
who do you support?
Tottenham Hotspur. Yeah, well, exactly. But then there's with so many people in my line of work, including clients, football has just been a big connecting point. You know, so I've got a guy on WhatsApp who is very senior in my field, and I just have football banter with him all the time. You know, and yeah, so I think showing a bit your personality can create some of these connecting points.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of social. That's the social part of social media, and that's what people actually get on social media for. And like, I have a lot of clients, especially NGOs, who want to do really serious posts. I mean, all the time, because they're an NGO, they want to be like, here's this social problem, here's how we're solving it, here's our project work, and they get no engagement. And you know, and I'm like, you know, that's kind of a good thing, because if you say something controversial, you'll get tons and tons of engagement, but you might alienate a few donors, but then again, you might get some donors. So, you know, whatever you want, if you want to post something more opinion-based or controversial, make sure that you really, really mean what you're saying, and don't accidentally, you know, don't throw something up just to say it, or, you know, tweet about some article without reading it or something. Like, make sure you're ready to stand by it, and you're ready to kind of face the fallout. But until that point, if you don't have that now, then just keep doing the generic stuff and hope that, you know, people kind of are aware of you and they see you're active, but you're not going to get, you know, you're not going to get thousands of followers. So
you might do.
Probably not. It's a brutal world out there. The algorithms are brutal.
Yeah.
Finally, my like most retweeted or liked tweet ever was about football, weirdly. So like,
I saw on Twitter, there was somebody said like, the tweet that goes viral is always the last tweet you'd expect. And then that one had gone viral and there were like, thousands, hundreds of thousands of likes on it. So
yeah. Just really quickly before Magdalena's comment or question, I also wanted to reply to Christina in the chat. She said that somebody was using a virtual background with their website or LinkedIn. And I think that's a cool idea. You can definitely do virtual backgrounds, but also when we're working from home, you can like print your own, I don't know if you have a logo or if you have a website or something like that, print it and put it on like the wall behind you as well. And then it's also like an extra level of branding. It's like meta somehow. That could be a good idea as well. Yeah.
I think you can also use your background to, again, show off your personal brand. So you can kind of see, if you have a keen eye, you can see I've got Hong Kong and West Africa related stuff behind me, and some African artwork stuff, because I do a lot of work in Africa. I'm also half Chinese, and these are all parts of me. And yeah, so I don't know, that's kind of another way. But yeah, I also just got a green screen to try putting logos on it and stuff in the way that Gabriella's just described. So
trying different things.
Yeah. Gabriella, sorry, Magdalena.
Yes, thank you, Gabriella, for the presentation. Before saying what I wanted to say is I saw regarding the backgrounds you were talking about, I saw in Canva, you can create your own background with your brand or whatever you want to put on it. So they have already pre-designed things, templates that might be useful because you can like customize it to whatever you want for calls, for Zoom calls and things like that. And then I was thinking about the concept of unique value proposition. I don't know if Gabriella or others have heard about it. I've been reminded about this concept like last week, a couple of weeks ago, when I was attended a conference online about an entrepreneur. And I thought it was quite interesting. And I think it's related with the beginning of Gabriella's presentation about thinking about your vision and mission and your keywords. And I think the concept of unique value proposition can be also quite useful to help being really consistent in presenting yourself to the ideal clients or to other possible prospects or clients. I don't know what you think, if you have any thoughts about this concept, or if it's too business-like, but I think it can be applied also to individual consultants or individual persons working.
Yeah, I think that's kind of also why many people, especially in social impact fields, are a bit like maybe scared of personal branding or the term, because it feels like you're really, selling out, you're selling yourself. But I mean, at the end of the day, we kind of have to show ourselves in a specific way and get clients. And I think the best way that you can do that is really communicating clearly about yourself and what you do. And so maybe if that's having, using this kind of unique value proposition template or however process to come up with it, maybe that'll just even be a good exercise for you to come up with really something else that you can transform, and maybe something that you can have on your website or have in your bio or something like that as well. So not necessarily maybe using it in every single piece of content that you create about yourself, but just having it somewhere where people can see, or just keeping it in the back of your mind, that whenever you're approaching a blog post and be like, how does this fit into my messaging? How does this fit into how am I somehow subconsciously, intentionally, but also nice to see you again at this call. What are you communicating? How are you communicating this, whether you're explicitly saying it or maybe somehow it's inexplicitly in what you're saying as well. So regardless of which tool you use, I think it's also very important. So yeah, I'll check out the unique value proposition stuff as well. So thanks, Magdalena.
Thank you, Magdalena. Does anyone else has anyone else got any questions or comments to add before we close up? No? All right. Well, I'd like to just thank Gabriella, first and foremost, for doing the skills exchange this week. And, you know, we certainly learned a lot, and we hope you have as well. Does anyone does anyone have any suggestions about future skills exchanges, or does anyone else want to lead one?
I think Suha wrote a comment in the chat.
Oh yeah, about I think Suha suggested one on podcasting. Yeah, I could do one on podcasting if other people are interested in podcasting, because it's actually pretty easy. Which is why I do it. So you know, I'm happy to share that.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. I know, like, I'm not sure if other consultants would be needing it, but I feel like it's also needed across different expertise. So it would be interesting to know some things and lessons you've learned and tips.
Sure, absolutely. I'd be happy to. Anyone else want to do a skills exchange? Skills exchange is really about, you know, it's just something that you've learned during the course of your consultancy work that you think will benefit others. And it's also like, it's informal. So you share what you've learned, you listen to what others have learned about the subject.
Yeah, it's easy to prepare because, I mean, Gabriella did the presentation, but other people have done it just completely discussion based by their own experience. So, you know, it kind of depends what you want to do. And also you can choose a topic that you feel interested in, even if you're not an expert, because yeah, it's very like discussion based. But yeah, so anyways, you can, if you don't want to say like right now or anything like that, obviously
it's always a bit
send us an email. Siobhan just left.
Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone.
Magdalena.
Yeah, thanks Magdalena. I'll get back to you on that. But thank you everyone for coming. Really appreciate you being in the IC Hub. And we will share the recording with other IC Hubbers, but it won't be public. So don't worry about that. We might do a post on LinkedIn or something to celebrate this skills exchange. But thank you very much. Gabriella, do you just want to point people towards your various channels?
Yes, I posted my LinkedIn in the chat as well, and then there's also the network that I started in case there's any communications people who would be interested in learning more about that. It's thechannelsnetwork.com. So yeah, thanks everybody so much for listening to me and for trusting me with this. And if you have any questions or you want to send me some like, hey, does this font and color thing look good or anything like that, feel free to just message me on LinkedIn and I'll get back to you with some thoughts. I always have thoughts on things, so.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gabriella. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Nice
Thank you.
meeting
Bye-bye.
Bye.